that land. Ain't no crying in that land. Ain't no crying in that land where I'm bound. Ain't no crying in that land. Ain't no crying in that land. Ain't no crying in that land where I'm bound. Ain't no sickness. Ain't no sickness in that land. Ain't no sickness in that land. Ain't no sickness in that land where I'm bound. Ooh, ain't no sickness in that land. Ain't no sickness in that land. Ain't no sickness in that land where I'm bound. Ain't no worrying. Ain't no worrying in that land. Ain't no worrying in that land. Ain't no worrying in that land where I'm bound. Y'all sound good. Ain't no worrying in that land. Ain't no worrying in that land. Ain't no worrying in that land where I'm bound. Ain't no dying. Ain't no dying in that land. Ain't no dying in that land. Ain't no dying in that land where I'm bound. Where I'm bound. Ain't no dying in that land. Ain't no dying in that land. Ain't no dying in that land where I'm bound. Ain't no Jim Crow. Ain't no Jim Crow in that land. Ain't no Jim Crow in that land. That's right. Ain't no Jim Crow in that land where I'm bound. Ooh, ain't no Jim Crow in that land. Ain't no Jim Crow in that land. Ain't no Jim Crow in that land where I'm bound. Don't you want to go? Don't you want to go to that land? Don't you want to go to that land? Don't you want to go to that land where I'm bound? Don't you wanna go to that land? Don't you wanna go to that land? Don't you wanna go to that land where I'm bound? Ain't no slavery in that land. Ain't no slavery in that land. Ain't no slavery in that land where I'm bound. Ooh, yeah. Ain't no slavery in that land. Ain't no slavery in that land. Ain't no slavery in that land where I'm bound.
every voice and sing, till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died, yet with a steady beat have not our weary feet come to the place where our fathers sighed. We have come over the way that with tears have been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered. Out of the gloomy past till now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, Thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, Thou who hath by thy Thou who hast by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path, we pray.
Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom over me. And before I'd be a slave, I'd be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom over me. And before I be a slave, I'd be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. Singing no more weeping, no more weeping, no more weeping over me. And before I'd be a slave, I'd be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. We're gonna sing that again. Raise your voices with me. Singing no more weeping. There you go. No more weeping. No more weeping over me. And before I'd be a slave, I'd be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free.
Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Central Oregon. My name is Noreen Halberstadt, and I will be your worship leader today. My pronouns are she, her. Welcome, welcome. What you bring, who you are, enriches us all. We say welcome to your joy, your hope, your pride. We say welcome to your grief, your fear, your anger, and to the parts of you that are not yet ready to be seen and heard. Welcome to them as well, for we are people of faith, faith in our expansive welcome, faith in our ability to grow, faith in the precious gift of our truths, faith in the promise of trying, learning, and changing, faith in our capacity to know ourselves and each other ever deeply. Welcome to you who are gay, straight, bi, pan, lesbian, queer, questioning, unable to be contained in any word. Welcome to you who are trans, cis, genderqueer, non-binary, intersex, agender, beyond words. Welcome to you who are human. Welcome to you who love and are loved. Welcome to you who are blessed, which is all of you. May this time be a blessing.
Good morning. My name is John McKee, and I'm a member of the Board of Trustees and of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Group. And it's my pleasure this morning to introduce to you our musical guest, Sean Allen. Sean is a singer-songwriter who has opened for national acts such as Los Lobos, Smash Mouth, and Parliament Funkadelic. A diverse set of... And Sean is a socially conscious artist who has been involved in supporting the movement of many progressive causes. And it won't surprise you that one point during his career, he spent 8 years as a music director of a church in Baltimore. Thank you, Sean. And I'm also going to introduce our guest speaker this morning, Dr. Dalton Miller-Jones, who is a retired Portland State University professor emeritus who now lives in Central Oregon, where he pursues work in the area of identity and learning, as well as fly fishing. He received a doctorate in developmental psychology from Cornell University and is taught at Cornell, University of Massachusetts Amherst, Williams College, and the City University of New York Graduate School. Professor Miller-Jones' research is focused on the impact of culture on the development of learning, especially for African American, Indigenous, First Nation children. In 2006, Governor Kulongoski appointed Dalton to be on the Oregon Board of Higher Education. He is a board member emeritus of the Fathers Group and co-chair of the Restorative Justice and Equity Group. Most importantly, Dalton is the proud father of 4 black children and 8 grandchildren.
Good morning. Our chalice reading this morning is called The Struggle for Freedom by Paul Sprecher. We light this chalice in memory of the courage of those who have struggled for freedom, the persistence of those who have struggled for justice, and the love of those who've built beloved communities to carry on the light of hope.
Please rise and bow to your spirit for spirit of life. Please be seated. It's now time for all ages, so we invite anyone young at heart who wants a better seat to come up to the rug. We're going to have a story called Juneteenth, and it is a YouTube video, so make yourselves comfortable. Do we have any littles? No little ones that want to come forward? That's fine.
There's one.
I'll come sit with you. I got the book. I'll bring the book.
For Maisie. Juneteenth for Maisie, written and illustrated by Floyd Cooper. For the Williams, the Banks, the Perkins, and the Cooper families, the clans that form my tree, Floyd. Maisie wants to play outside, but it is too late. It's getting dark, Maisie. It's time to stay inside. Maisie wants a cookie, but it is time for bed. Not now, little one. It's too close to bedtime. Maisie wants to stay up late, but she is too little. Bedtime is the rule, sweet girl. Why so grumpy, Sugar Bear? Asks Dad. I can't go where I want, have what I want, or do what I want, answers Maisie. Well, tomorrow you can have a celebration, says Dad. What are we celebrating? Asks Maisie. We will celebrate the day your great-great-great-grandpa Mose crossed into liberty. The day will be celebrated by us and many more families on the day we call Juneteenth. Dad lifts Maisie into his arms. I bet you're tired of hearing no all the time. Well, great-great-great-grandpa Mose heard no even more. Grandpa Mose worked in fields that stretched all the way to sunset. He and the other enslaved people would be bone tired, but they had to keep going. Their enslavers wouldn't let them quit, but as they worked, they thought about freedom. And before they finally went to sleep at night, they prayed about freedom and made plans for change and a better future. Some slaves ran north to freedom, following a bright star in the sky. They sweat, they bled, and they cried till those cries were quieted by a single proclamation from a brave president. Grandpa Mose heard that proclamation, read from the balcony of the hotel on that warm June day in Galveston, Texas. Grandpa Mose heard nothing but cheers, saw nothing but happiness, and felt nothing but pride shared by all those around him. The cheers became dancing, the dancing became celebrating. It went on and on into the night. Grandpa Mose and the others had found freedom. They continued to work, but this time they were paid for their hard work. So they worked, and they saved, and they never forgot the moment they heard, the moment that changed their lives forever. But things weren't perfect. Black people still struggled to stand shoulder to shoulder with white people. They still weren't treated as equals. It wasn't easy, but they never gave up. And every year on Juneteenth, they remembered. They marched for jobs, they lobbied for schools and the right to vote. They shouted for opportunity. And every year on Juneteenth, they celebrated and remembered. They learned and they grew. They forgave. They excelled and achieved. They became heroes. Now, sweet Maisie, it's your turn to celebrate, just like great-great-great-grandpa Mose. It's your turn, Maisie, to eat some barbecue and drink some strawberry pop. It's your turn to celebrate and to remember.
So I think the children stay in service, so you can go back to your seats or stay there if you're comfortable. We're going to do a responsive reading now. Nurture this precious light. You know how this goes. I'll start and you'll follow. How shall we begin to live out our free faith? When we do, we are beacons of freedom, creating a safe place to rest, explore, and innovate. How we keep this lamp of truth and justice affects how and whether we are transforming inequity through witness and action. As we nurture this precious light together, we become a light of hope, turning isolation into community, anguish into peace, sorrow into joy. As we do, our faith burns a steady flame of innovation, banishing illusion, creating a new, renewing way together. With our living connections, with our glowing stories, with our flame of freedom moving hand to hand, we nurture this precious light. Together, we turn this world from bleak to bright, one flame, one fire, one light at a time. Nurture this precious light.
My first question is, how many times can you hear good morning in one Sunday service? So I'll say good morning yet again. My name is Shayla Sloper, and I'm the Congregational Life Facilitator here, so I let people know what's going on and hopefully try to find ways that you all, whether you are new to the congregation or have been here for many years, can find a nourishing way to engage with the life of our congregation. If you are visiting today, either on Zoom, hello, or here in the sanctuary, please do let us know that you are here, and if you'd like to know more about our congregation, you can sign up for our weekly email. Some call it kind of a newsletter. We call it the All Congregation email, and that's where you hear the most about what's going on in UUFCO. So, and also for those on Zoom, we have a link in the chat where you can do the same. So I've got the first three things to let you know about today. Make me really excited because folks are stepping forward to offer things in the life of the congregation that are sometimes just individual offerings. So for instance, this Friday, June 9th, the Bonnet family invites the youth group ages 6th grade to 12th grade to their home for a pickleball party. And so if you're not 6th grade to 12th grade, disguises won't work. But if you want to RSVP, then contact Amy Brock, Amy at uufco.org, and she'll get you hooked up with the Bonnet family. Then on Saturday, 2 women from our Women's Connections group are offering a workshop Saturday morning called The Awakened Brain. And if you'd like to sign up for that, they have a sign up on our website. So you look for uufco.org, look for Getting Involved, Women's Connections, and that's where the sign up is. So that's a workshop on the book, The Awakened Brain. And then the following week, we finally got a date for our cribbage players. So that might be a small group, a subset of the congregation, but we'll be meeting at Shannon Adams' house on this month. The third Thursday is June 15th. There will be more information in the ACE. So then, following that, there will be 2 consecutive weekends that UUFCO will have a presence in our community. On the weekend of Juneteenth, so for the 17th and 18th of June, you are invited to be present at our booth at the Juneteenth celebration. And you can visit the DEIG table in the gathering hall and sign up for that. And so that'll be at Drake Park on those days. And then the following Saturday, we will have a presence at Pride. There's a sign up for that also on the kiosk. So for the Pride Day presence, we ask you to commit to 2 hours. So there are sort of a rotating schedule for that. And then, of course, that night, June 24th, we'll have the Eugene Gay Men's Chorus singing here. And then that Sunday, here comes summer potluck. So remember, that'll be sort of our reception for the Eugene Gay Men's Chorus. It'll be our farewell for Jonathan Bile, our event manager, and it will be our way to enjoy a salad potluck together. And yes, there is a sign up at the kiosk and in the ACE. Let's see. I think, our theme for the month of June is delight. And it is my delight to introduce Melissa Williams of Every Child. Our offering today will be received for every child, but it is also my hope that you will find your day sprinkled with sparkles of delight.
Hi, my name is Melissa Williams. I'm the Executive Director of Every Child here in Central Oregon. We had a video we were going to play, but it was too long, so it will be sent out. I really hope you watch it. It is the voice of youth that were in foster care here locally, most of which aged out. So of the 3 interviews, 2 aged out and 1 went into guardianship. Every child exists so that one day every child who enters foster care here in Central Oregon has a safe, loving, and appropriate foster home. I can tell you that we are not close. In Central Oregon, we're not even beginning to be close. Over 400 kids spend at least 1 night in foster care here in Central Oregon. We have 62 general homes. So if you can do basic math, if a relative or family member is not immediately available to take a child who enters care, there are only 62 places for those children to go here in Central Oregon. That is not enough, not by a long shot. Every day we see placement desk requests over and over and over again, begging for more homes. So I want to share a little bit about older kids because that was the video that's going to be sent out to you. So every year, 23,000 youth age out of the foster care system. Of those youth, 81% of the young men become incarcerated. 71% of the young women become pregnant before their 21st birthday. and half of those children end up being in the foster care system. 40% will be considered homeless or houseless within 18 months of aging out of the foster care system. Over 50% of our current houseless population spent some time in their life in the foster care system, and 97% of those who age out will immediately enter chronic poverty. Right now, the most recent data we show as a nation, 1/3 of foster youth identify in the LGBTQIA community. We have even less homes willing and able to support those youth. On average, youth spend at least 3 placements in their journey in foster care. LGBTQIA youth spend on average 6 placements. Every placement is more trauma, it's more pain, it's harder to attach, and the cycle produces, and then those kids are more likely to age out of the foster care system. So I say all that to say that when we talk about systemic issues, we have to talk about foster care. It is a part of a system that is causing pain in so many areas in our world. And it's easy to get focused on one thing or the other thing, and I always say when I talk about foster care, I'm like, it's everything, it's every Venn diagram, we're a part of it. And we are. Every child does come alongside foster families, foster youth with services and support. So first and foremost, we recruit foster families, and that's what I'm here to do today, is to say if there's anything inside of you that's ever thought about it, please come see me afterwards and learn more. And then the second is if you say, you know what, I'm not ready, it's not for me, we need respite providers, which are certified folks that will take kids for a couple of days, up to 2 weeks. We actually had a youth in the LGBTQ community recently that took weeks to find a 10-day respite placement here locally. If you say that's not for me, I would say you can be part of a neighborhood which just wraps around a local foster family, provides 2 meals a month and 1 act of kindness, allowing them to do what they're meant to do. And we're seeing great results with that, meaning that foster families are able to take more kids than they maybe wanted to because they have neighborhood support. So they have somebody in their corner. I see that my time is up already, so I'm gonna send a video. Please watch it. I would love to try and put their words out to you today, but it's not my job. I want you to hear what local youth who aged out of the foster care system in Central Oregon have to say and what they need. So that video will come out after today, and my time is up. Thank you for having me.
We know that our financial contributions to this congregation come from sacrifice and hard work. We are so grateful for this and commit together to ensure the funds we gather collectively do a greater good for ourselves and our world than they could have done alone. May there be an offering to sustain and grow the life and mission of this congregation. May we give in love and hope.
Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. Gonna keep on walking and keep on talking, marching up to freedom land. Gonna let no jailhouse turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let no jailhouse turn me around. Gonna keep on walking and keep on talking, marching up to freedom land. Segregation. Ain't gonna let segregation turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let segregation turn me around. Gonna keep on walking and keep on talking, marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let race hatred turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let race hatred turn me around. Gonna keep on walking and keep on talking, marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let Mississippi turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let Mississippi turn me around. Gonna keep on walking and keep on talking, marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna no, 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 no. Gonna keep on walking and keep on talking, marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. Gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom land.
As we enter this time of sharing our joys and sorrows, please feel free to light a candle in the trays on either side of the sanctuary for those you are holding close in your heart. My name is Susie Hickman, and I'm a member of the Pastoral Care Team. Information about our team and how to reach us for support is found out on the wooden kiosk in the gathering hall. You can also find forms for sharing joys and sorrows in the future on that kiosk as well. Chayla Sloper. Chayla, stand up so we know who you are. Has a joy. Her joy is, believe it or not, June 1st marked my 13th anniversary working for this congregation. Woo! She says, so very grateful for all these years cultivating love and connection with y'all. And we are so very grateful too. Ann Wood, are you here, Ann? There she is, over there. Today's flowers are in celebration of our 58th wedding anniversary. Grateful, Ann and Bob Wood. Woohoo! Ginny and John McKee ask that we all please keep their brother Terry in your thoughts and prayers and wish him a peaceful transition in his last few weeks struggling with ALS. Right now, my heart is very full of emotion. We have a joy and sorrow and joy. Our joy is that Mark's parents, Kathy Mom, 88, and Papa John, 91, that they're still with us and in their 108-year-old home. Our sorrow is that Papa John has bone cancer throughout his body. And our joy is that they are being surrounded by loving, loving family. And the last sharing is a joy from Heather McNeil. Heather? Oh, wait. They gave her 10 days, but no more. Take a little vacation from the Peace Corps. So now I'm grinning ear to ear because Jamie Rose is not in Guatemala. She's here. Stand up, Jamie Rose. Where are you? Woo! Woo! Oh boy, does that make my heart happy. So, whether it be in joys, sorrows, or life's everyday minutia, always remember our love impacts lives.
I invite you to get comfortable for meditation reading and about a moment of silence with the bell ringing us in and out of our time together. This is from Nelson Mandela. I have walked that long road to freedom. I have tried not to falter. I have made missteps along the way, but I have discovered the secret that after climbing a great hill, one only finds that there are many more hills to climb. I have taken a moment here to rest, to steal a view of the glorious vista that surrounds me, to look back on the distance I have come. But I can only rest for a moment, for with freedom comes responsibilities, and I dare not linger, for my long walk is not ended.
So, hi, Ujambo, hola. I'm Dalton, and I'm here to talk about Juneteenth. I don't know what happened to my man right now who just was sitting there. Is he coming back? Restroom. When he comes in, you will see David Merritt, who's president of the Fathers Group. Tasha James is our treasurer and apparent camera woman. I'm part of the Fathers Group, and we have been running Juneteenth for the last 3 or 4 years at Drake Park. And I wanted to share with you what Juneteenth means for some of us. I wore my raggedy jeans jacket because it makes me feel like I'm back in the 60s. It wasn't funny. It was a pretty harrowing time when we were fighting for our rights. So what is the meaning? Oh, I'm supposed to be able to do this. Come on. So what is the meaning of Juneteenth for many of us African Americans? It's absolutely a difficult task to try to do this in about a 15 to 20 minute talk. Why is it difficult? The significance of Juneteenth, oh Lord. The significance of Juneteenth requires going deep inside the emotional experiences of people of African descent, the experiences that we have suffered through. We cannot recreate it for you, and we do not wish to inflict the horrors that we experienced upon you. I'm trying to coordinate this. So I have time to do about 3 things today. One is to help you understand what most of you, I'm sure, already do, that slavery is about money. The second thing I want to try to do briefly is to refer to a history of the resilience that we as African Americans exhibit in the face of severe oppression, the consequences of which are still with us today. And third, besides being and staying informed, what can you do to repair the harm? Okay, maybe this will work. So enslavement of African people. Will you all please be sure to silence your cell phones? Don't look. I put my time in here, and I am allowed a few of those. So the middle passage is where I want you to think about. I want you to imagine what people of African descent have gone through. We've been endured being captured and transported overland to the Gold Coast of Africa. The middle passage on the ocean, lasting in cases month and a half, and then debarking upon alien land. By the numbers, W.E.B. Du Bois estimated that between 10 and 15 million Africans landed alive on the shores of the New World. That includes South America. Brazil had the most slaves, not here in these states. Central American countries, North America, and the Caribbean. The mortality rate of the Middle Passage was estimated about 12% for Africans. The disease killed slave traders and crews of the slave ships at a higher rate than it did for African captives. The numbers of Africans being transported and the reduced numbers of slave traders and crew meant that Africans needed to be shackled and secured in chains most of the time in order to prevent them revolting and commandeering ships, much as the Amistad mutiny has been memorialized in a film. Come on. I wanted to share with you just briefly some of the words of someone who actually was able to write about their experience. Olada Iquiano was captured as an 11-year-old boy in Benin in 1756, and he wrote a narrative of his experiences later and provides us some idea of the trauma slaves experienced. This is all, by the way, for you to frame why we are celebrating Juneteenth. What are we celebrating being relieved from? After describing his village life in somewhat idyllic language, they had food in abundance, and he also shares that his father owned and traded slaves. Those were people who were captives of prisoners of war or had been convicted of crimes. He describes seeing the ocean and being on a boat for the first time. The captain and crew were of a different color than he had ever seen, and they spoke a language he had never heard. He was treated in ways that made him think he had gotten into a world of evil spirits and that they would kill him. Iquiano writes, "I was soon put down under the decks, and there I received such salutation in my nostrils as I had never experienced in my life. With the lonesomeness of the stench and crying, I became so sick and low that I was not able to eat. I now wished for the last friend, death, to relieve me." He said, if he had, quote, 10,000 worlds, I would have freely parted with them all to have exchanged my condition for that of the meanest slave in my own country. Tom DeWolf, a resident here in Bend, wrote in his really important book, Inheriting the Trade, as none of the captives had experienced ocean waves, vomiting from seasickness, feces and urine, and perspiration from bodies held in close quarters led to intolerable conditions where many died. Those unwilling to eat, attempting to starve themselves, and in their misery, were forced fed. Some died of dysentery. Others succeeded in committing suicide and jumping overboard. The transatlantic slave trade lasted 366 years and moved 12.5 million Africans across the Atlantic Ocean. It was the largest forced migration in human history. A lot of what I'm about to give you in terms of data comes from the Civil Rights Museum in Memphis, Tennessee. It is at the site of Dr. Martin Luther King's assassination at the Lorraine Hotel. It is a powerful place, and I encourage those of you who can, please attend. I didn't do this. Come on. The money. It's the money. Slavery was abolished by the British in the British colonies in 1833, and in the U.S. Congress in 1865, 32 years later. On January 1st in 1863, President Lincoln had established that all enslaved people in the Confederated States, in rebellion against the Union, shall be then, thence, and forward, and forevermore free. At the time of the Civil War, America had 4 million slaves worth more than $3 billion in 1860 dollars. Investment in human property exceeded investment in all of America's banks, factories, and railroads combined. Northerners who had abolished the practice of slavery in their own states grew rich nonetheless. Rhode Island tycoons, they grew rich from outfitting over 1,000 voyages, slave ship voyages. New York bankers insured the ships, bringing captives. Massachusetts distillers made rum from molasses, and English textilers made cloth from cotton picked by Africans. On June 19th, 1865, over 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation was signed by President Lincoln, federal troops under the command of General Gordon Granger informed enslaved Africans in Galveston, Texas, that they had been freed. It was 2 months after Robert E. Lee had surrendered at Appomattox Courthouse in Virginia. Texas, a slave-owning state with over 250,000 enslaved people, had not acknowledged President Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation and had benefited by 2.5 years of continued free chattel labor. It's about the money. Examples now. Come on, back, get back. Sugar cane equals rum. Between 1709 and 1807, 11 billion gallons of rum made by Rhode Island distillers, exchanged for slaves. In 1767, male slaves could be bought for 130 gallons, women for 110 gallons, young girls for 80 gallons. In 1760, one enslaved laborer was expected to produce 20 pounds of sugar a year. That equals 110 gallons of molasses, and it could be distilled into 73.5 gallons of rum. Sugar was hugely profitable, but physically demanding to grow and harvest by hand using machetes in the tropical heat. Work was so deadly that many enslaved Africans died within 3 years. Some, I should say, by bites from poisonous snakes who loved being in the sugar cane, were mice and other food sources. Their population, I'm talking about African slaves, their population only maintained by constantly importing more captive Africans. Cotton, one enslaved laborer is expected to pick at least 120 pounds of cotton a day. Have any of you spent an afternoon in the Mississippi Delta? You know what I'm about to say. Oh my God. It's Just breathing is an effort. Try picking 120 pounds of cotton. Some, however, were able to pick as much as 300 pounds, half an acre in one day. Cotton's sticky seeds had to be separated from the white fiber, or the boll, by hand. Eli Whitney's cotton engine, or cotton gin for the engine, did this work, allowing one worker to clean as much as 50 workers. That did not relieve, but in fact led to an increased need for Africans. African American slaves were producing 75% of the world's cotton by 1860, fueling the Industrial Revolution. Slaves toiled as Southern plantation owners and industrialists on both sides of the Atlantic prospered. Rice. Enslaved laborers were responsible for 5 acres on average of rice worked year-round. They were expected to produce 2,000 pounds of rice a year. Slaves from West Africa's rice coast, Senegal to Nigeria, knew how to cultivate the difficult crop. By 1708, the majority of South Carolina's population was enslaved. 1,092 enslaved laborers produced an average of 4 million pounds of rice a year. In 1850, the rice plantations of America's largest slaveholder, Joshua John Ward, valued at $527,000, or in today's dollars, $15 million. Tobacco, one enslaved laborer was responsible to tending on average 2 acres, or about 10,000 to 20,000 tobacco plants. If you doubt the value of African Americans in the prosperity of this country, you should have no doubt about it at this point. The second point has to do with the history of resilience in the face of severe oppression, and that legacy is alive today, my friends. Slaves in Texas, as was true throughout the slaveholding states, were brutalized for generations, and I apologize to the youth in attending here. I will try to go lightly here. But I don't think it takes much of imagination to understand that to have control over slave population required the use of severe force. If you made an example of someone who made the slightest violation of protocol, you were doing the work of the slave owner. We lived in rags, under filthy conditions, with no running water or means to clean ourselves. There was little or no medical attention, save that of our own devices, finding local plants, etc., for cures. Much of the consequences of chattel slavery have been described by Dr. Joy DeGury-Leary, now just Dr. Joy DeGury, in her book, The Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. I encourage you to spend some time with that volume. She provides detailed examples of the use of enslaved Africans for medical experimentation and so forth. The infamous Tuskegee syphilis trials are an example of this. And the consequences, my friends, are that African Americans in the service frontline, people face to face when COVID hit, were the most impacted, partly because of that, but also because of a distrust of medical procedures like vaccinations. And my work here with Mosaic Medical in St. Charles was to try to help them understand the importance of developing trusted relationships with people, not just treat folks as they come into the clinic, but to be in the community. And I don't have to tell you the same thing will be true around law enforcement. I am way over my time, so I'm going to skip a lot and get to I don't know where this is for you. I'm just going to read this. You will find all of these slides plus stuff on the Father's webpage. I have it at the end of this talk. Please go there and get some of the details. I'm having trouble because this computer I can read. I can't read what you're seeing. I have to say this in closing, though. The U.S. Congress subsequently passed the 13th Amendment to the Constitution, abolishing slavery on December 6, 1865. It is the exception clause to this constitutional amendment that has left the door open to re-enslavement of African Americans and establishes a means for some of the current law enforcement abuses. The section reads, "Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction." Many of us believe that current police forces, sheriff's departments, state police, evolved out of this clause and the practice of recapturing freed Africans and returning them to prisons in the South. Please see the movie 13th. It's a documentary. Ava DuVernay won the best documentary at the Emmys for it. It's an education. So along with this and the promise and the failure to deliver on the promise of 40 acres and a mule have led to consequences of disorganization and confusion in many people of African descent. The circumstances would have broken almost any person or group of people. Yet when we point out federal and state-sanctioned policies and practices like redlining, mortgage lending for home ownership, considered to be the hallmark of wealth, or failures to obtain bank loans. We point to discrimination and bias in employment opportunities, persistent inequalities in educational opportunities, access to high-quality education. We're told, even today, by many folks, to stop whining about our lack of equitable opportunities, to just get over it and move on, to pick ourselves up by our bootstraps like they and their parents may have done. Well, you need to know, please, that we have certainly tried to just get over it. We have tried to just move on. Most attempts at self-employment have been met with stifling, aggressive countermeasures, both legal and terroristic, by Euro-Americans. Think about Tulsa, Oklahoma's Greenwood community, considered by many as the Black Wall Street, where in May 1921, over 250 African Americans were murdered and 5,000 people left homeless. Black businesses were torched and burned to the ground. While many of us know about Greenwood, few understand that this was a pattern of aggressive, repressive attacks on the communities of folks of African descent. The Red Summer of 1919, red referring to bloody in Chicago, where attacks led to 23 African Americans and 15 whites being killed and 1,000 black families left homeless. Or Rosewood, Florida massacre, Rosewood settled in 1845, and by 1923 the town was entirely black except for one white family, with over 200 African American citizens. January 1st through the 7th, whites murdered between 27 and 150 African Americans and burned the town to the ground. And I have the references for these. These are not conjured out of my imagination. Other cities with race riots in 1919 included Washington, D.C., Knoxville, Tennessee, Longview, Texas, Phillips County, Arkansas, and Omaha, Nebraska. So why are we celebrating Juneteenth? Lynchings. The Tuskegee Institute documented the lynching of 3,446 African Americans between 1882 and, are you changing for me? Thank you, because I see all you looking up there. Between 1882 and 1968. In addition, there were 64 lynchings reported in 1918 and 83 in 1919. Black deaths at the hands of police included Timothy Stanberry, Brooklyn, New York, January 2004. Sean Bell, Queens, New York, November 2006. Oscar Grant, Oakland, California, in January 2009. Aaron Campbell, Portland, Oregon, January 2010. And Alonzo Ashland in Denver, Colorado, July 2011. Wendell Allen, New Orleans, Louisiana, March 2012. Jonathan Farrell, Charlotte, North Carolina, September 2013. Eric Garner, Staten Island, New York, July 2014. Michael Brown, Ferguson, Missouri, August 2014. Tamir Rice, 12 years old, Cleveland, Ohio in 2014. And we can now add to this litany George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Tony McCade, Ahmaud Arbery, Rihanna Milton, Dominique Remy Fells, Rashard Brooks, and the many other black and brown people killed by police and white supremacist vigilantes. From 2006 to 2012, a white police officer killed a black person on average at least twice a week, every year. This is according to Melissa Harris Perry, who has an impeccable research staff. So we celebrate because despite these horrendous conditions, still we rise. We still are able to love, to have a generosity of spirit. I do not know how the churchgoers in Charlotte when Dylan Root entered their sanctuary and murdered them. Those folks, to the person, pronounced publicly that they forgave him. Generosity of spirit, and to accomplish a remarkable set of achievements. If you come to Juneteenth, you will see displays of some of the contributions of our brothers and sisters. Despite enormous barriers, African Americans have always valued self-improvement in education. According to the Journal of Blacks in Higher Education, in the 30 years between 1865 and 1895, over 82 institutions of higher education were founded, serving African Americans who were not allowed to learn to read until a generation after slavery ended. What can you do to repair the harm? We invite you all to join us in celebrating the rebirth of the Democratic Republic of American idea as we celebrate Juneteenth. But also join us in the work that remains ahead of us, to work for fair and equitable employment and business opportunities here in Central Oregon, to ensure fair housing practices, to work for culturally inclusive education, and to eliminate academic achievement disparities. It's coming. It's already shown itself at the school board meetings here in town. And Brad, I am so proud of you for taking the torch in Redmond and trying to make that happen. Thank you. Critical to achieving academic outcomes will be the deliberate and sustained efforts to negate and neutralize racist practices of othering, to create a wall against DeSantis and others who say an advanced placement course on African American history by the College Board, made up of representatives from universities and colleges across this land, is inadequate for them to acknowledge and give credit. You cannot let this happen here, and people are trying to. They think critical race theory, CRT, is somehow related to any of the things we're talking about here. It isn't. It's about law. But we need to know and inform ourselves. You have a responsibility to know and be informed, my friends. Critical to achieving these will be to neutralize these attempts at othering. I'm almost done. You can help by creating access to high-quality health care by establishing meaningful relationships with health care providers and reduce ethnic disparities in quality of life indicators. To eliminate environmental racism and work to rebalance impacts of climate change. Environmental racism is a real thing. If you haven't been tracking, African Americans are suffering at a greater level from the amount of CO2 released. We have an incapacity to process those environmental contaminants. We need to create neighborhood law enforcement practices that reflect a kind of peace officer attitude as opposed to paramilitary stormtrooper mentalities. Specifically, here in Central Oregon and Bend, we need to recognize the many, many injustices that have been committed against Indigenous people and communities by doing more than giving lip service to our land acknowledgement statements, and instead by showing up on the reservations and asking the people of Warm Springs and Umatilla what they need or how we can support them. We need to support the development of a multicultural community center in Bend, where our youth and their families and community at large can meet and hold events that celebrate the diverse cultures we have, and to welcome them here in Central Oregon. The Fathers Group and the Restorative Justice and Equity community asked this of the mayor and the city council specifically at the last Black History Month acknowledgement. We need to think about supporting the creation and placement of commemorative plaques for Deshaun Adderley at the school district offices of their complex and at Summit High School, and for Barry Washington Jr. at Barry's Corner downtown. The naming of implicit bias training and reporting programs for the Bend Police Department need to be done after Barry Washington's Jr.'s name. There's more. But I want to thank you for your time and the opportunity to share what Juneteenth means to some of us. I am Dalton Miller-Jones, and that's my brother Sean Allen, and my brother David Merritt, and my sister, treasurer of the Fathers Group. I'm sorry, I didn't say it, David. And you can see the officers of our board and the work that we do. So I want to thank you, and I'll be available, as will my friends, afterwards. And I appreciate you letting me go over. Clint Smith's How the Word is Passed. I wanted to extract some of his readings of this work, visiting the plantations and the slavehold. It's an education. Please look it up.
Dalton Miller-Jones, you guys, give it up. All right, you guys. So I'm getting ready to sing another song, which I'm going to need your help with. But before I do, I'm going to go off script just for a second. We often do land acknowledgments and so forth. It's very rare that you'll hear a music acknowledgement, but I have to do it today. And I'm going to read from my notes. I'd like to voice an acknowledgement of my deepest gratitude and honor to the Black and brown African Americans for their incredible life-altering contribution and legacy to and for American music. From the slave ships to the fields, from the hearth to the church, from blues to rock and roll, to reggae and R&B, to hip-hop, to untold other influences, we would be a barren, dusty field. I would say a musical tragedy without the strong, soulful people and what they have triumphed musically, even through the fog of desperation and brutality. It's very doubtful that I personally would have started singing and writing songs without this soul fire. And today, this morning, as we celebrate and honor Juneteenth to come, I want to specifically thank my dear friend, Dalton Miller-Jones, for gifting me this opportunity to learn and sing some of the great songs of inspiration and hope. These songs known as Negro spirituals, these songs of power. Please honor those that have passed, those nameless authors, by raising your voice with me in the spirit of unity as we sing together. And this is called I'm on My Way. I'm going to do a little part of it, and then we're going to get Dave up here. We're going to show you guys a little something, something. And then we'll do the outro, and we'll get you down the road. I know you guys are getting hungry. I'm on my way.
Rise up out of your spirit.
Freedom land. I'm on my way to freedom land. That's right. I'm on my way to freedom land. I'm on my way, oh Lord, I'm on my way. If you don't go, don't you hinder me. If you don't go, don't you hinder me. If you don't go, don't you hinder me. I'm on my way, oh Lord, It's an uphill journey, but I'm on my way. It's an uphill journey, but I'm on my way. I'm on my way, oh Lord, I'm on my way. And there is nothing you can do, hey, to turn me around. There's nothing you can do to turn me around. There's nothing you can do to turn me around, Lord. I'm on my way, oh Lord, I'm on my way.
We'll now say our covenant, and I will give a benediction, and then there's more music to follow, but we will go. Love is the spirit of this fellowship. To seek the truth in love and to help one another. When I say go in peace, I don't mean go in mindless oblivion. When I say go in peace, I don't mean go without challenging yourself or others. When I say go in peace, I don't mean go in utter ease and comfort. When I say go in peace, I mean go in peace, seeking justice. I mean go in peace, committed to equal rights and opportunities for all. When I say go in peace, I mean go in peace that is created when together we build communities of true solidarity, deep compassion, and fierce, unrelenting love. Go in peace.
All right, and we will. All right, you can cue that track up, brother. All right. How you guys doing? Let's go.
This is bringing today in here.
So this is my Juneteenth song. It's Juneteenth. It's Juneteenth. My life is my soul I keep. It's Juneteenth. We celebrate. Yeah. Come with me. It's Juneteenth. Come on, man. June 19th, we celebrate 10. If you look like me, it's a celebration. Yeah, I come from the Bay, where they always take in how we talk, how we walk, round up. We didn't, where do I start? Let's say be all in the dark. Sacrifice after sacrifice, only playing the part. Malcolm, he had a plan, the king, he had a dream. Africa was the first, and now what they really know about it, I'm a teacher. You know, out in Texas was the last state to free her. And tell me why little Emmett Till had to die. Brown skin couldn't look a woman in the eye. They took away our rights and they took away our pride. Can we get a fair shake? All we ever do is try. Don't give me no religion, our faith is real. In God I trust, my fate is sealed. It's Juneteenth. Slaves are free, we celebrate. Yeah. Come with me. It's Juneteenth. My mind is free, my life is my soul I keep. It's Juneteenth. We slaves are free, we celebrate. Yeah. Come with me. It's Juneteenth. Hey, thank you, Sean. Hey. Just Juneteenth, little time to reminisce as we look to the future. The past can't forget how they treated us. Blessed with the strength, black and I'm proud. My ancestors was ripping they land, running for miles when we get a little angry and talk a little loud. With God on my face, sun shining through my smile. Take credit for my thoughts, how we talk in our style. When they what's a history lesson if you don't tell all of the facts? For so many generations, just what it is to be black, resilient men, women, and children, just trying to survive all these oppressions that we live with. Dealt one hand, all you can do is play it. We got so long, don't know a better way to say it. We've come so far, so today we celebrating, cause it's Juneteenth and it's cause a celebration. It's Juneteenth. The slaves are free. Yeah. Come with me. It's Juneteenth. Whoa. It's Juneteenth. Yeah, it's Juneteenth. Come on. Hey, my soul like heat. We celebrate. My soul like heat. We celebrate. It's Juneteenth. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Paul.
I forgot to mention something, David. So the Fathers Group has a program called the Bridge Program. And we are working with young people of color coming out of incarceration. And as you all can imagine, the reason that they're there to begin with is that they don't have certain kinds of connection and resources, and they took some wrong paths. We need volunteers to staff some community panels that will do the background work around housing, getting driver's license, getting jobs, getting health care, getting addiction services. There are opportunities for people to get involved and to volunteer, and that's on the website.
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Service is ended.